Hey, welcome to Take 10. Today I'm with Bishop Doug Young of Los Banos, California. He is the pastor of a great church, Our Father's House, where they are doing a collective authority on the kingdom of God. It's an unbelievable situation where we are seeing things happening on a daily basis. And I have him here for the next few segments to ask him the questions that I've been asking ministers and entrepreneurs in the gospel of how it all came to be in their life. So in this segment, we are discussing with him, and welcome, Doug. It's so good to have you. I've been your friend since we were very young, and watched you grow and watched God shine upon you. But I want to know, where was that first time in your life that this is what you wanted to do? That you could tell those that are watching today that are looking to start their life or looking to start their ministry or their 501 or get out and do something. Where did it become where you said, this is it, I'm going to go for it?
Well, Bishop, I grew up in the church in early days. There's a lot of stories, so we'll try to find the right ones. My mother prayed for me when I was just a child that I wouldn't start first grade without being saved. And they drug me to every meeting in the country, and it just didn't happen. And so Sunday night came and went. I didn't get saved. I started school the next morning, and my mother was panicking because I was going to start school and hadn't given my heart to Christ. And that night we went to bed, and I was 6, and I couldn't sleep and crying and carrying on. My dad came in and said, "You sick? You know what's wrong? Why are you crying?" "No, I don't know what's wrong." "And I need some water." "No, I don't need water." He went back and told my mother my condition. She said, "Oh, I know what's wrong." And we all went to the couch in the living room, and my parents led me to Jesus, kneeling at the couch in the living room when I was 6. And I grew up around the church. The little ladies around the church would come and pat me on the head when I was just a small child. "One day, boy, you're going to be a preacher. One day you're going to serve the Lord in the ministry." And I'm just, a little kid. I just run on and do what little kids do. When I was 12, the Lord really began to speak to my heart and spoke to me that he was calling me to the ministry. Didn't tell anybody for several years, and finally got the courage to tell my cousins. We were all together one day, and I thought I was revealing a big secret. I'll tell y'all something I've never told anyone. The Lord's calling me to the ministry. I feel that call.
Wow.
And they all just looked at me and laughed and said, "Everybody knows that." It was something that I thought was no one knew, but the evidence was on my life. And so all the things that happened to me when I was 20, I decided that I'd go to Bible college, and went to college and got my degree and began to serve the Lord. And, through different seasons of my life, ministry took me different places. There were times where I worked and did ministry, and I always felt like that my first calling was the ministry. And even though there were times that I made the decision to do ministry, when obviously you're making more money doing, working in owning your own business or those things, but that passion could not get any break from it. And so the Lord's led me through my life, and been an amazing journey.
When you talk about being raised in the church and the expectation that people have of you're going to be a preacher, that puts actually more pressure on you to make the right choice. And you talked about rising up, and very few men just start out preaching and take their finances from the offering. But you actually had a strong business right here in Houston, landscaping and doing Bible studies. So that was a bivocational thing that at the beginning of your ministry that taught you that work and teaching and preaching go hand in hand. Can you share a little bit of that with our viewers? Because many of those that are viewing with us, you are bivocational, and there is absolutely zero wrong with that. I think that's a painful thing that preachers put on people.
Well, that was a big revelation, because I always felt like you had to just do ministry, and I knew I was called to ministry. And we were launching a new church, started in a house, hotel room, rented that for a long time, and then finally bought a building. And I'd started a landscaping business to be able to eat, pay the bills. And that business took off, and we were making more money than we'd ever made in our life. But I was so unhappy because I felt like I gave God my leftovers. And looking back on that, in fact, just recently going through old paperwork, I found my tax return for those couple of years. I couldn't believe how much money we made, and couldn't believe why in the world was I so miserable. And I realized that it was just the concept that I'd been taught growing up, and that you had to be all in or nothing. And actually being bivocational in ministry, I think is definitely harder as far as you're spreading yourself between so many different things. And it's those guys who do that, it's definitely they're definitely to be commended. But God has always been so good to us, and that tension was within me more than it was anywhere else.
But if you look back, to those of us who have been bivocational, if you look back, God always made time for His work.
Yes.
And even though you paid to preach, you were, those times were there, and it is difficult at one time to make the balance when one is doing so good, but it shows the blessings of God. Maybe you could just talk to some of those now that are here, because we have over 300 organizations in the ICCI alone, and many of them are bivocational. Some of them struggle to support the ministry that God has called them to. So if you could just maybe look in the camera and talk to that entrepreneurial spirit and call that forth and bless us with what you've been blessed with, because periodically you have put your hand to the plow again, and the presence of the Lord has come through and blessed you financially.
No, I just release you to be all that God called you to be. And even now, I'm always been someone who saw business opportunities, and even now I'm like, there's so many things that I could say if I had another life, I would do that. And I love to barbecue. That's one of my fun things I like to do. I love to cook for people. And I told my wife the other day, I said, we should just retire and open up a barbecue restaurant. She says, that's not retirement. No, we're not going to do that. But that's, that tension, it always felt like that I was, if I worked and did ministry, when you're the pastor and the largest tithe in the church, that's really actually a good thing. And at the time I didn't know it, and I realized I put a lot of pressure on myself, and felt like that I wasn't quite living up to what I thought God wanted me to do. But it's definitely, God can bless you doing both. And actually I think it's good to have something that you do outside of ministry. Certainly if you don't have a hobby or something like that, you definitely need something.
They talk about Peter and Jesus coming to them. You never see anything derogatory there.
Right.
Men make that derogatory. They want to talk about Peter's bivocation, the Apostle Peter's bivocationalism, and they want to talk about the fact where he got angry and said, I'm going fishing. I'm going back to my business.
Right.
But incidentally, Jesus told him one time, go fish.
Go fishing.
Catch the fish.
Right.
And in the fish's mouth will be the golden coin.
Right.
And take that coin and go pay your taxes and do what you will. And this segment's flown by far too fast, and we've taken 10 minutes out of your day, but we want to encourage you. Right now, I just speak life into your structure. And that's not your finances alone. That's mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually. And many times you have to remind yourself, I'm not working for God, I'm working with God.
Yes.
And He's putting me into places that I can do things. And so what? If I pay to preach, now it's become a signature on my life, And although there are great offerings that come my way that we use for the kingdom and use for Moms Against Hunger and other things, it is a strong thing to be able to say that I can have a life that's blessed by the coin in the fish's mouth. And I've watched the Lord use it. And yes, certainly you could barbecue and the line would be out the door. But we have to make that balance. And as it begins to grow, God begins to lessen the desire for those other things. But every time things get tight, we have that Peter spirit rise up in us that says, I'm going fishing. Really, that's not going to happen because the calling came at an early life, and we're going to go right back to the kingdom and the things of the kingdom, and they will always be first priority. And those of you that are thinking about starting a new corporation or a new ministry, let us help you. Go to ministrylaunch.com and let us help you do those things that will get you on track. And you will find so many coaches and so many people to back you up and get involved in a network that will make you strong. I want to say, God bless you. Have a great time. We'll see you next time. Don't miss one segment of Bishop Doug Young from Los Banos, California. Go on Google and Google him. You'll be happy you heard him preach. God bless you.